Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
I'm not sure whether or not you guys are aware. However, the president of South Africa, President Ramaphosa, and his delegates came to the White House for a meeting. The meeting was spectacular in the sense that while the South African diplomats held their composure, the Trump administration and Trump himself did not, period, point and blank. But I digress. The meeting was a reminder to those that appreciate history and those that understand geopolitics as it relates to Black people around the world could only appreciate. Number one, they talked to the president of South Africa about the elimination or attempt to, through crime, of white Afrikaners, or better known as Boers, by the hands of Black South Africans, natives. And then they went on to act as if this was some sort of genocide. They then decided to turn down the lights, as Trump asked, and play a video. One video they played was of Julius Malema of the EFF. That is a particular organization within South Africa. They are activists and political figures of a minority group there in that country. And in the video, they're playing a song. The song is referencing doing away with the Boers. The song was created during apartheid South Africa. So like any other oppressed group of people, they oftentimes will create songs to empower them and songs to keep them going through the oppression. But I digress. That was never brought up in defense of the song itself by the South African delegate, including the President Ramaphosa. So they play the rally that EFF did. Then they go on to another scene in this video that they're all watching at the White House, where all of these crosses are lined up on this long, winding street. And they claim that every single cross that we saw represented, I guess, at the hands of the native Black South Africans, represented white Boers, Afrikaners, that were eliminated through those hands of crime. But I digress. Then, after they finish playing the video, they go on and Trump pulls out article after article of crimes in attacking people. It turns out that the articles he whipped out was of a real genocide that has taken place in the Congo. Now, going back to the crosses, from what I understand, the owner did that in memory there in South Africa of every life lost, not just white Boers or white Afrikaners' lives that were lost. But it's still up for debate, apparently. What we got to see in the White House meeting is that white people who were colonizers have benefited from colonization and continue to own minerals and resources that came either off the backs of Black people or from directly the continent of Africa without any acknowledgement of that whatsoever. In other words, they have generational wealth due to it, but they don't want to acknowledge it, nor have they paid reparations in South Africa, nor have they paid reparations in America. But I digress. Then we find out that one of the delegates that the president of South Africa brought was one of the wealthiest white Afrikaners. He began to talk about how it's important to have a better line of communication and technology such as Starlink. Starlink is owned by Elon Musk. Elon Musk bought Twitter and changed the name to X, in case you don't know who Elon Musk is. But I digress. One of the laws that South Africa has is that any major corporation coming to South Africa, that they need to have a 30% ownership set aside for native Black South Africans. Elon Musk is from South Africa because his parents relocated there, I believe, from Canada during apartheid, I might add. Elon Musk doesn't like that set aside, but Elon Musk also didn't like the fact that he was sued here in this country, America, for discrimination. I believe that it happened in California, Oregon, perhaps California, but it definitely took place. Where that case is now, whether or not they ever settled, I do not know. Take a look at Don Lemon's interview he did about a year ago, one-on-one with Elon, and Don brings up the discrimination case to Elon, and just take a look at Elon's face. It was of a face of disdain. So back to the meeting that just was held at the White House. Elon Musk is also in the meeting, yet he said nothing in the meeting that I'm aware of that was shown. But Elon Musk is staring down the president of South Africa as if the president can't run his own country. South Africa, I don't care how long the colonizers have been there, is a Black country. It's an African country. That's what it is. Africans were enslaved from the West to Central Africa and spread all over the earth, including here in America. So the richest white man in South Africa wants everyone in the room to know that they need Starlink. But Elon Musk doesn't want to do the 30% set aside to Black South Africans. Ultimately, they're going to try to do a workaround, but that came after that meeting. We'll see where that ends up. So my point with this is this. Here you have Donald Trump talking about no more set-asides, no more DEI, yet Elon Musk is getting a set-aside. They're going to consider setting aside their BEE program, which is for Black empowerment, due to colonization and apartheid, in order to uplift the Black South Africans out of poverty. But let certain historians that are Eurocentric, and this is why Black historians, African historians call it Eurocentrism, they'll tell you that those that are very rich in South Africa work very hard. I don't think it's very hard if you come over with weapons, point a gun at someone's head, and take their land and resources 400 years ago. I don't think that's very difficult, especially if they have bows and arrows. I don't know. It's called stealing. And apparently, not only did the Europeans come over 400 years ago, but later on, just like we had Jim Crow in this country, they created apartheid, which just ended in 1994. And then they didn't end the law that Black people in South Africa could not own land until 1999. But somehow the wealthiest white people, such as the one he brought to the meeting from South Africa, don't owe anybody anything, and why give a set aside of 30%? And then we have Donald Trump rolling back our set aside because we're supposed to have merit based. Which is it? So what it is that you only are merit based when there was a set aside in place. This is the way the Trump administration is working now against us as African American people, as Black American people. If you had the set aside in place before, it needs to be reversed to merit based because it's discriminatory. But if you are white, we need to remove the set aside because it's discriminatory against a white person that's from South Africa. Make this make sense. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And then you bring over white Boers, Afrikaners to this country. It just happened about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago, claiming they're being discriminated against. Well, which one is it? If African Americans are not being discriminated against here in this country and other people of color, then how in the world can the Boers or the white South Africans be discriminated against? Shouldn't they have to pull themselves up by the bootstraps? Apparently not. Shouldn't Elon Musk pay reparations to the Afrikaners in some way, shape, or form? Because if his parents didn't have some resources, how would he become the richest man, I'm talking about Elon Musk now, so-called, in the world? Who gave him his first loan? Who gave him what is called the seed money, which many Black people around the world just don't have? But I digress. So going back to the White House meeting, after they play the video and then Trump whips out all of these articles claiming that all of these people have been victims of crime, which, by the way, America is in no position to talk about any country's crime at all whatsoever, because we have random mass shootings all over the country all the time, as well as many other types of crime. But as they review the video, they then move to news articles. It turns out that the news articles that Trump was presenting, and I'm curious to know who put this presentation together for the White House, because it was very, very flawed, I might add. Turns out the pictures they were showing was of an actual genocide taking place right now over cobalt, which is a mineral that technology companies use. And that genocide is going on right now in the Congo of Africa. Congo is located in the central part of Africa. Trump is saying, or claiming, this is evidence of crimes being committed against white Afrikaners, white Boers, when in fact the articles reflected an entirely, totally different country on the continent of Africa. I am just speechless at the attempt to paint South Africans that are Black, the native ones, as trying to attempt to commit genocide, even though they were pushed off their land and put into shanty towns. Certainly, there are people still alive that can remember waking up in the morning on their land, but during apartheid was pushed off their land into a shanty town. But I digress. So what they ended up getting out of the meeting is that Starlink, owned by Elon Musk, will possibly be going to South Africa without giving any set-asides or reparations, because he doesn't believe he owes anything, apparently, to the native South Africans. Which, in comparison, when you think about African Americans, we too have not gotten our 40 acres and a mule yet, because nothing is owed. Even though, like South Africa, they benefited from free labor. In South Africa, they not only had, during colonization, free labor, but they claimed their gold and their diamonds and whatever mineral and resources South Africa has as their own. And they created major corporations. They became rich. And then we have the argument coming from some of the white Afrikaners, well, it wasn't them personally that benefited. What do you mean? You did benefit. You benefit. Apartheid and colonization were primarily based on, and the caste system in South Africa was based on being white. South Africa had and still has a caste-like system. Whites are at the top, then Indians, and mixed, people that are mixed, which they also refer to mixed people in South Africa as colored. They do not call people that are half black and half white or biracials anything but colored. And then the blacks, who are the natives, are at the bottom. And in that order, you find your wealth gap too as well. So I think that South Africa having the 30% ownership set aside is a good, humane idea in the way to close the wealth gap, but apparently not to Europeans' liking. And it's not their country. They stole the land. They stole the resources. They claimed it as their own, became very rich, and now they want to tell the native black South Africans to pull themselves up by the bootstraps. Donald Trump is sitting in a meeting asking why are they offing the white Afrikaners in a genocide approach, which is not true. Why? Because over 70% of the wealth of South Africa and the land and the mineral resources are owned by white companies, white farmers, white people in South Africa. And South Africa also has the highest crime rate in the continent. Out of 54 countries, South Africa is the one with the highest crime rate on the continent of Africa. They even beat out Zimbabwe. And if you don't know the story of the Zimbabwe, the same people that came to colonize South Africa came to Zimbabwe. And in the 1980s, Mugabe kicked all the white farmers and all those that owned the land out. And from almost that point on, it went on for several years that Mugabe, Robert Mugabe, the president of Zimbabwe, that America decided, and other European colonizing countries probably decided to not do business with Zimbabwe. They basically decided to shut out Zimbabwe from the world market due to their decision to give back what was taken, what was stolen by white colonizers. But I digress. So even Zimbabwe has a lower crime rate than South Africa. Just let that sink in for a moment. What I got out of watching the White House meeting with the South African president is very simple. Here in America, Donald Trump's administration has attempted to strip away civil rights that African Americans fought so hard for. At the same time, this administration in this country has decided to bring over white Afrikaners because they're being discriminated against. You can't have it both ways. But at the same time, Black Americans have yet to receive any reparations. And now the White House meeting was all about how are you treating white Afrikaner, white Boers? And can Elon Musk company come to South Africa without any set aside for the Black native South Africans to be economically empowered? Because apparently they don't owe anything to us, and that they work very hard stealing from us. And that does not matter. It just does not matter. And this is the reason why African historians, be it African American, or African from the continent or anywhere else call European history Eurocentric, because it's filled and riddled with so many lies and reasonings of denial. Just plain outright denial, as if it didn't happen. So when Black Americans say we was kings, as some people I see making jokes about us saying that we were kings and queens, take it very seriously, because we were. It's not fantasy world. Our history did not start during slavery. Our history started a long time ago as great civilizations moving around the world, I might add, doing trade, building things, and engaging with other people of other ethnic groups, highly sophisticated. But let Europeans tell it, just like they're telling the story right now, that nothing's owed to the South Africans, even though it just happened 25 years ago. Or let Americans, white people, tell you that the Black Wall Street survivors, there were 3, and still are 1 or 2 maybe left, they're not owed anything for the massacre that took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Let their history read this way, when in fact it's not the truth. South Africans are owed reparations through set-asides of ownership or anything else they can ascertain. Black Americans are owed reparations for our ancestors building this country on our backs for free. And the only reason you have wealth, accumulated wealth through generations, is due to the contributions made by Black people. It's not due to any hard work that was done whatsoever. And for those that didn't own major corporations who happen to be white, just like living in apartheid South Africa, you are privileged enough to go to and from anywhere you please. And just like the restrictions in America during Jim Crow, Black people were not. That alone puts you at a disadvantage. But let a lot of these Europeans tell you they work very hard to get what they have, and you should be able to do the same, when in fact that is not the truth.
We cannot, however, remain silent when those decisions impact or have the potential to negatively affect our own welfare. And on this, may I say, some of us were embarrassed, if not frightened, but what appeared to be the return of the biblical giant called Goliath. Are we having a return of Goliath to our midst, who threatens the extinction of other countries? And may I say to the United States President, Mr. Trump, please blow your trumpet. Blow your trumpet in a musical way towards the values of unity, peace, cooperation, togetherness, dialogue, which we have always stood for, and which are well written in our very sacred document, the Charter of the United Nations. Upon those values, each nation can build its greatness, including the United States. And it's the greatness in recognizing those values: unity, peace, cooperation, dialogue, togetherness, that we would want to be guided by the United States and not by the promise of our damnation. Damnation we shall always resist, no matter whence it comes. We have resisted it when it was in the form of imperialism, as we fought for our own independence, our own culture, our own sovereignty to be masters of our own destiny. That's why we call ourselves free today. It is because the monster of imperialism was defeated by us. Bring us another monster, by whatever name, he will suffer the same consequences.